The Standard, deluge of death, deluge. English, people of English and teachers of English and English teachers as well. Let us know what the right pronunciation is. Deluge or deluge of death. Residents near Kijabe Dam were warned about rapidly rising waters, but no action was taken. Thereafter, an entire village was caught unawares at night as flood waters swept everything on its way. Page 2, 3, 4, and 6 of the Standard are prioritizing the greatest tragedy out of the massive flooding which has happened. Currently, the death toll nearing 50 people who are dead, confirmed, and others missing to this point. Rescue missions ongoing in that side of Larry constituency, as I'm being informed by Kimani Wachira, who's on set with us here this morning. That's the Standard, and there's an image, as you can see here. The Standard says it's 45 people so far. Some more are missing. The number is likely higher because missing relatives are yet to be found. And here you can see houses have been swept. You can't see any house at all, actually. You'd think there was no settlement in this area, but there were houses here swept by raging waters from that dam, which again I am duly informed wasn't a dam, but just water which had already built up uphill from that village or from that settlement. 150 people is the number of people who sought treatment at the Mai Mahiu Health Center. At least 25 were referred to the Naivasha Sub-County Hospital. That's the tragedy of the day here, outside the many currently happening across the country. Houses are being damaged, swept away, crops, livestock, people, and vehicles as well. We are losing lives, and we are also losing livestock and food. The Daily Nation, Black Monday, is the headline of that paper this morning, and we are seeing an image of a woman carrying a child through a slurry of mud. And this was yesterday at Mai Mahiu, Naivasha, where that tragedy happened, when the residents of Jerusalem and Kamuchiri villages in Mai Mahiu retired to bed on Sunday night. They didn't know that at around 2 to 3 a.m. they'll be awakened by a slurry of mud, rocks, and trees coming down, sweeping away everything in their path, leaving dead and many of them missing. Right there at the Daily Nation, on the front of the pages, is a story on page 4 and 5 where confusion happened. Again, coming to Monday morning at 1 a.m. when a communication was sent from the Ministry of Education asking that students who are returning back for their second term postpone that until next week on Monday, where schools will reopen from May 6th rather than yesterday. And that communication happened at 1 in the morning, catching many of these students and pupils unawares. Some of them had already made their way to school and had to make their way back through the heavy rainfall and some of the roads, as we are seeing the Business Daily, which have been cut off. The Kitale, Kapenguria, Lodwar, Juba Highway cut off at around West Pokot yesterday, so there's no transport happening across Kitale, Kapenguria in that Lodwar Juba Highway. Nice. So those are the stories of the day, and let me get the gentleman to say hi to us, greet us, and let us know what they are feeling like this morning given the happenings across the country, and then we get their reactions and sample your feedback on social platforms. From my far right is Fendo Godwin, coming back for the second time, I believe. Yes, and Kimani Wachira for the nth time. We've lost the count. Stop the count for Kimani Wachira. Let's continue the count for Fendo. Fendo, please introduce yourself. Good morning.
Good morning to Mr. Okenye.
Yes.
Very happy to be with you here again.
Happy to have you back.
Yeah, this is my second time here, and the first time that I was here, I can remember very well we were analyzing these newspapers, and the first cover page, there was again a tragedy, and the tragedy was about the explosion that happened
in Embakasi. Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of lives got lost. And on this, it's still on this table that I told you that tragedies are there, but what are we doing to prevent these issues from happening, or is it political PR? Again, I'm here for the second time, and this is about calamities, and not just about calamities, but a calamity from the same county, same scenario of a dam, exploding or doing whatever it did, and lives lost. The numbers stood at 48 in the year 2018. The numbers still standing at 48 and more still losing their lives.
Yeah.
So I'm here again to assist in the analysis of the newspaper.
Right. So it's a repeat tragedy, as you have aptly mentioned there, and the numbers are around the same, coming from the same county, from the same region. And I just have to mention that this is the region of the President of the Republic, which should be of core concern to him, being his backyard. Kimani Wachira.
Good morning.
Good morning, bro.
Good morning also our viewers. I'm Kimani Wachira, the Kembu Youth Council Chair and former student leader. Allow me, before I indulge into what the editors have prioritized, to first bring you greetings from the Reverse Church Nakuru. I was there for a training, and they say that they have always been watching us, and they say hi to you, Brother Richard.
Nice.
Receive greetings.
I received them.
Also allow me to pass my sincere condolences to my fellow constituents and also the neighboring constituency, that is Nakuru, where yesterday tragedy fell us as most of our members were asleep. It is one of the saddest moments we have had as a nation and as a Rari constituency, and also our neighboring constituency, that is Naivasha constituency. And we are saying that it is time we evaluate how we do disaster response and also preventive measures, vis-a-vis preventive measures. Lastly, allow me also to send a message of goodwill and also quick recovery to all those who were hospitalized and others referred to the various treating centers within Rari constituency and also in Naivasha constituency that host Mai Mahiu. And it is an unfortunate incident. We are lacking words to comment because as we all know, people went to sleep after a beautiful Sunday, having attended churches and having the last moment with their sons and daughters, because they were anticipating that on Monday they are going back to school. They slept well, and unfortunately disaster struck, making yesterday a very dark day in our history.
Yeah. Right.
We have
Kimani.
to add,
Very sad.
to send our condolences
Yes.
to those who have been affected, and also message of quick recovery to those who are still in hospital.
Yes, the survivors, definitely. And we are seeing many more videos coming out, of course, other regions where the vehicles have been swept away. Some of the boats which have been used in crossing some rivers in the northern part of the country capsizing, with mothers and children inside, teachers and students who are trying to make their way to school yesterday. And in addition, of course, to this, Black Monday, as Daily Nation has pointed out here. Now, on to serious matters, of course. Before here on this show, we've made jest of and made light of that statement that, you know, there have been boats which are being procured for Nairobi County and other counties. It used to be a joke. I wouldn't, well, for lack of a better word, it used to be a joke that, you know, we need boats, ukitaka kuvuka Moi Avenue, or tunahitaji boats, but now it's serious. Lives are being lost, whether in Nairobi, where we are seeing an overwhelming amount of flooding happening in settlement areas like Kibra, Mathare, and we're seeing this at the same time happening even in gated estates of Runda, Karen, so which means for the first time Mother Nature is showing us that there's no one who's above the other. Now, in terms of preparedness, coming back to the issue of boats, last year 10 billion Kenyan shillings was set aside towards preparedness of El Nino. A series of events happened. The President of the Republic said they've made a lot of prayers in collaboration with the Office of the First Lady and the Office of the Lady to the Deputy First Lady to the, I don't know. There are many offices that were involved in prayers. We made the Director of the Kenya Met Department apologize for saying that there's going to be massive effects coming due to El Nino. He made a public apology on national press saying, you know, pole sana kwa ile tulisema. It seems the president has actually seen what is happening. Hakuna heavy rainfall coming. We had 3 months. That was from August, September, November there, October, and then now we are back. El Nino, massive effects, landslides. We are seeing something unlike we have ever seen before. Where are the 10 billion? Where's the 10 billion Kenyan shillings in terms of preparedness? I'd like to hear what you gentlemen have to say. Fendo.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So I'd like to begin this from a biblical
Perspective during the times of Noah when there were floods. And these people are going to an ark, and God said to them that floods will not come to destroy the people again. Floods will not come to destroy your property again. Which means God had plans that he knew when rains will be there, this water will have a place to go. And it will not destroy people. Which means right now, if floods are destroying and killing people, it's because of our own making.
God already did his part.
God already did his part. It's because of our own ignorance, our own making, and our shortcuts that we want to do, and do, you know, some shortcuts. You find that Mother Nature placed this place to be a river, but somebody comes and even builds a structure at the center there. You remember there was a time when a certain member of parliament, I think it was from the member of parliament,
Governor Kiambu.
So he was asked and by Raila Odinga when they were doing some physical planning about the urban areas and the waterways and all those things. So they were proposing, and there were some propositions about that. But this person told them that kama mtu amejenga katikati ya mto, basi maji tafute mahali pa kuenda.
Wasongeze mto.
Yeah, but that person is a member of parliament elected by Kenyans.
And
So
a
you
governor,
and
Kiambu County.
Kiambu County, you know, elected by and won by a landslide.
Yes.
So our own ignorance is the one that is placing us to this mess. And God said, or rather the Holy Book says that ignorance, how is that quote? Ignorance is not defense, and ignorance, many people suffer because of ignorance.
Yes.
Yeah. And remember, Nairobi also said that we have set aside 10 billion. Where are those money? They said they are boats. What I saw in Nairobi County is this, you know, these trucks, how can I, this sunny, you know, that I used to construct roads. I saw it trying to, you know, short us some margin from some bridge somewhere and trying to help, you know, to control it. That's the a sense of joke that we are in.
Yes.
You know? So there is poor planning from the government. Right now we cannot see anybody. We don't see physical planners at the ground. This is the best time that they can come to the ground and start doing planning. We need to see them with the cameras and the rulers trying to see how these waters can find their way. Where are they right now?
But this is something that was supposed to be done even way before this, right?
Yes.
Yes, which means we haven't seen them before and we still can't see them here now.
But we must have a time to say that now is the time to do it. The best time to do it is right now.
Yes.
We have a new government, a president who promised Kenyans, you know, to take them to good places, to give them, you know, what is needed to follow the law. You know, so we need to see those planners to be there and doing everything to solve other issues.
Yes.
I mean, these pertinent issues, because we're losing lives. And if you look at this cover page here on this newspaper, it is a mother carrying a child. So it is women and children suffering the most. The gender cards have always been playing parts and narratives that we want women to be in leadership. Women are right now suffering. Children are right now suffering. Why is the gender card on defending against women?
Right.
Who do we elect in power? These are people putting gender cards so that they win political seats, but not to help.
When they get there,
they forget these are women suffering. Number of women and children who have died are many. Nobody's bringing the gender cards here. But when they want political seats, they will go there. We must be very careful about these vampires who use gender cards to go into parliament, but they're not doing anything to save these mothers and women suffering.
Yeah. Kimani Wachira, I am here on my phone with a PDF of one Dr. William Ruto's thesis at the University of Nairobi. This is the title: Biological and Physicochemical Status of Two Wetlands in the Nairobi National Park, Kenya, by William Kipchirchir Samoei Ruto, BSc Honours, Nairobi. A thesis submitted to the School of Biological Sciences in partial fulfillment for the degree of Master of Science, Plant Ecology at the University of Nairobi. And this was having a look at the influence of anthropogenic activities on land use, cover changes, and environmental quality of riparian ecosystems. I mean, that's a very heavy title for his thesis, and that's what he defended for his PhD, which gives him Dr. William Ruto. Aptly, President William Ruto, again, he is the chairperson of the African Heads of State and Governance at the African Union when it comes to matters of climate change. The first daughter to the President of the Republic is also chair of another organization which I'll be looking at that takes care of climate change. President William Ruto recently also said October 10th is going to be Mazingira Day. So we have a lot of efforts, a lot of statements, a lot of knowledge when it comes to what we are facing at the moment. We have preparedness in terms of funding. So what are we not doing right? From where you sit at, looking at it, Kimani Wachira, presented with those facts. The president studied exactly what we are going through. He should be the first person we are seeing on the ground, as Godwin is saying. We should see him with the tape measure. Endo tunafaa kuona atuambie vile alikuwa na ile thesis, riparian land aliona wapi, what happened. He should be the expert. He should be the one to tell us and give us direction, but we are seeing very little of that. Where are we? We are going well, we are going wrong in so many areas. So what gives, Kimani?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
As you have clearly stated, the incumbent president did a thesis in the University of Nairobi about environment, and he has been consistent talking about issues to do with environment and challenging and saying that one, we must appreciate that, and also that is in cohort with what the late Wangari Maathai said, that nature is very punishing, but does not punish the actual offenders, but the next generation. And as you have clearly stated, that a lot has been talked about, even Kenya hosting an African summit about environment.
Yeah, by World Bank.
By World Bank,
Okay.
and the African, it was called African Climate Summit.
Oh, the Africa Climate Summit, yes.
That was happened last year.
Yes.
But all this does not prepare for us, does not prepare for disaster.
Just to add on, yesterday as well, the World Bank was
Yeah.
having its summit here in Kenya.
In Kenya.
It's also about sustainable development.
Yes, all this is about development, but not about the adverse effects of the climate change.
Okay.
I'm sure you have heard about and hosted by the other Kimani talking about disaster, about climate action fund, but that here goes to talking about how can we do to avert the effects of climate change. But now what you're talking about here is disaster.
Yes.
Disaster that has been caused by the selfish interest of Kenyans. I will not highlight about yesterday's incidents, but in the entire picture,
Okay.
we have, as Kenyans, built on riparian land. We have, as my good friend and learned colleague mentioned, a former governor of Kiambu County, who is on record saying that Kenyans, if you have a problem with, there is a river that passes through your land, and it's called riparian land, we should transfer or move the river and leave the established infrastructure. We have, as Kenyans, built walls to separate our land and preventing waterways. Kenyans have been ignorant. We have seen cases of Kenyans riding on tops of roads on a flooded river and expecting that the government should do something about it, and it is their right. So as much as we are blaming the government, as much as we are blaming the current regime, we also ought to blame ourselves. That one, we are ignorant, professionally ignorant. Two, we also would need to blame the developers of the system, the education system. We don't have disaster awareness classes or lessons taught to our primary schools or secondary school students. That is the missing gap, because education right now penetration is around 78%. If we had 78% of Kenyans who are literate with information about disaster preparedness and how to react when certain things happen, then we will be not crying about this. So we also need to review our education curriculum. Coming back to the story about El Nino, the funds, there is a white, people think that it's quite relevant. And I would say that yesterday I was listening to the government spokesperson articulate some issues in the evening, and he said that yes, they were warned about disaster and El Nino. Funds were allocated, and it's good. They say that the El Nino was supposed to happen from during the short range time, and it happened in sections of the nation, and some funds were used. The weatherman this year talked about and advised that there is going to be prolonged rains, and he didn't say it's going to be El Nino. The word that was used was enhanced short rains, because this is the time that we experience the rains. And I think the government maybe thought that it is not going to be super enhanced, and that's why we were not, the government did not probably take that issue. But then we need as a nation to re-evaluate the professional advices that are given.
Okay.
You clearly stated that when the first El Nino warning was given,
Yes.
we rushed to churches, and my good friend talked about my people perish lack of wisdom or knowledge.
Yes.
I'll go back to the book of the Holy Scriptures, the book of James. I think I don't want to be a root of paraphrasing the wrong verses, but we talked about faith without action is dead.
Okay.
We may, when disaster is, or when we are given warning, rush to churches with faith that things are going to happen. But if we are not cautious and act against the warning, whom are we to blame? Ourselves.
Yeah.
Because even the Holy Scriptures that we are using to request the gods and the God to probably get away the disaster from us, talks about faith without action, and it's our action that has led to the current situations we are.
Okay.
If I was to single out the Kijabe incident,
Okay.
warnings were given a month ago about the accumulating water masses at the railways, because if I was to paint the picture of what happened, Kijabe is at what we used to call when we were studying the escarpment.
Escarpments. Yes.
And escarpment is like meanders. We have, though it is a slopy area, we have some places that are, or they are highly elevated, others are lowly elevated. There is a railway line that passes through those areas. And in construction, when building a railway, most of the time we try to go for a straight way or a linear way. So when they were building the railway, the colonial masters, when they were building this railway, they elevated some parts and also dug tunnels in some parts.
Yes.
What happened yesterday is one of the places that we had embankment or soil that has been used to elevate so that we can have a clear picture or a clear line for the railway to pass, has been holding water.
Yes.
And I think this has been a phenomenal since independence. But they also, after building that embankment, there are some paths that they create so that water cannot be stuck.
Yeah.
And that is where we come to about action. Those paths that water are supposed to pass, those stormways, have been blocked. Residents of the downstream had been warned,
Yes.
as stated in the standard a month ago, but they just said that this is Kenya, we are always given warnings.
Now, from that very point, I'd like Fendo to respond here on who do we blame really then at this point. There's two things which are happening with this current disaster. One, warnings are being issued. If you're speaking about guys who are swept by rivers or vehicles which are being swept, or guys on boats and then they capsize, CS Kindiki says now he's going on to arrest, or is given issues of arrest, so that if you are trying to cross a river and you're caught in a place that is massively flooding, you're treated as attempted suicide. Yeah, so we are blaming the citizen for not heeding the warnings. Fine. Same thing with the Kijabe incident. Residents were told, this is happening upstream as it used to happen before, and we had Kipchumba Murkomen and other CSs also saying move to elevated areas. Fendo, who are we to blame at this point in matters of evacuation and finding alternatives? If you've been given a warning by the government that there's clogging happening upstream, there's likelihood of a disaster coming, should this response come from the citizens, and where should they go to? Or should the government have gotten to this place, amassed all its efforts and unclogged the place, and we wouldn't have faced the same disaster as we are now?
There are two main people to blame for this instance.
Yeah.
One is the government, and two is the people like Kimani here who defend the government. So, and their wrongdoing. Why am I saying this? Who issues licenses for construction of dams? It's the government.
The government, yes.
who issues, who is supposed to issue civic education? It's the government. Remember during the elections time, the way the government could issue civic education, how the ballot could be.
Yeah, where to tick,
where to tick,
how long
how
to
to
tick,
how long to tick, what time should you wake up to go to, the importance of voting. Why are we not seeing them issuing civic education with the same vigor, with the same energy on matters appertaining floods? Ruto during that time could go to churches where those regardless of all religions, the Akorino, the Muslim, you could see.
He has a photo with every regalia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why haven't we seen him with gumboots right now, with the sururus and clogging, taking the lead? I'm a communication person, and it starts with the leaders doing something about it.
Definitely.
Remember, civic education is very key. What is the civic education? From the civic education that we received here is that the government just telling us we are setting aside 10 billion, we are setting aside a committee to do this. And you know what committees do?
They
And
eat
pale
that 10 billion.
Yeah, we need 10 billion tutaweka pale, tutafanya hivi. In fact, hata pesa drought, the one that we received donations, ilishaisha because we bought these boats, we bought these special gumboots, and you saw some of these issues on the media.
Yes.
Another thing is the government to blame. Why? Because parliament is the one that sets laws that people should not do this, people should not do this. So we need to ensure that we have a strong government. And I highly appreciate the President of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, but the people surrounding him, or the ministers, the quality of the ministers that he has, I highly doubt their credence. Who is the Minister of Environmental Planning? So
Very silence.
Yeah,
Very
Soipan Tuya.
Yes, Tuya, very silent.
Soipan Tuya. But I'm very worried today that if I want to attack her, or rather correct her, the gender cards will be brought on the table that you are attacking women, I don't know, you are doing what and what. Those silly narratives that they present to us, trying to sell some propaganda. So we need to ensure that even the quality of people that the government is taking there, they are most qualified. You've just cited a PhD of Dr. William Samoei Ruto.
Yes.
The PhD is very good. I've read that PhD thesis. It's very, very good. And Kenya should cease to be a paper nation whereby it's just about papers. I have this number of papers, I'm the chairman committee of this, I've been to these people. No, we need to see what did you do for the people.
I mean, where the scholars from these institutions, the PhD graduates who have been taking a look at these matters?
They cannot be heard. For example, even doctors right now are on strike. Why? Because they are professional in their field, but the government want to treat them the way they like.
Yes.
And that's why they even find refuge in other countries. So even the professionals in these countries, they are not appreciated. Kenya appreciates people who glorify, the politicians, sing their names, and everything. Even good lawyers in Kenya right now, they cannot stand for the truth. The incident of the Solai Dam that happened, we need to analyze it from it. I've read the ruling on that case. The case was withdrawn.
Yes.
And the government was ordered, I mean, the person, the owner of that dam, to pay 47 million. Somebody owning a dam being told to pay 47 million as compensation. Remember owning a dam? Do you remember when we were doing social studies, we could read something like Kindaruma Dam, somebody owning a dam,
That's some
being told,
amounts of money.
being told to only pay 47 million shillings, 1.2 million shillings for a grown-up, and 800,000 shillings for a minor. It's like telling Fendoman, today we want you to pay, you've broken a traffic rule, pay this person 50 shillings, that's the money, just give it and go. So this person for 7 million is nothing to them.
Pocket
Fine,
change for them.
laws should be implemented, and funds, when you cause loss of lives, you pay 1 billion or even 10 billion, so that people can heed, not to nonsense such as this.
Yes.
Another thing, he has talked about World Bank here, I know sustainability, those are big English. We don't want to hear big English. We want to see action.
Yes, it's a question I asked earlier. Are the conversations happening in these rooms reflecting the reality of what we are living?
The Ministry of Planning, the Department of Planning of Kiambu County, they were discussing about the physical planning at the room. When they're coming out when it's raining, water is already surrounding the offices, and it's about planning. So they cannot even plan for themselves, but they want to plan for the... What are they? Are these the best people that Kenyans could put to these offices to help us deal with this big crisis?
These are the people we have. We have CS
And we must condemn the government.
Yes, he's going to arrest anyone who's crossing a river or attempting suicide. You're attempting suicide by engaging with El Nino. If you're trying to go to work, try to go on a living. If you're trying to move from a lower region to a highly elevated region, and then upatana a river in between, the river is not only your problem, but CS Kindiki's officers will also find you there. Why are you trying to attempt suicide? Here's a question. Here's a very funny statement. Imagine a police officer going to arrest someone crossing a flooded river, only to end up being swept away by the floods in that scuffle. They now want to put the lives of police in danger just to make it good. Next time, vote wisely. arresting someone in the middle of massive waters. What happened to this citizen? Could you kindly clarify if swimming across the river is also prohibited, as I am learning to swim instead of walking across? Anyway, more comical statements from Kenyans. Kimani?
Kenya is an official
meme nations, memes, and sometimes we joke on serious matters.
Okay.
I believe that the directive by the CS was meant for people who are like the drivers of that truck.
Yes.
If he survived, he needs to be arrested, prosecuted because of the dangers he has caused on taking risk. My good friend here stated that, correctly stated that the people to be blamed is the government and the people who support the government. I want to agree with him, but ask the question, who is the government? And where do we get that government?
Okay.
The government is us, who elects a few of us to represent us.
The rest of us.
So indeed, he correctly stated that the government is to be blamed, and when we define the government, we find that it is us. So indeed, Kenya's need to be blamed.
There are three arms of the government. There are three arms of the government. We cannot say us. I've never earned millions from the government. There are people in government. There are
But
people who can issue
of August,
executive orders.
And talk of
executive orders. You cannot compare us, the hustlers here, and a person like the CS of security. If the government is us, then all the salaries should be coming to our accounts.
When we are doing blame, we have to share it, but when we are reaping benefits, the government is separate.
And he has talked about executive order. I know my friend is informed. If I remind him of the second executive order that was declared, given by the president of 2023, was giving things to do with disaster to his deputy president.
Yes.
And that's why when there was an incident in when we were here, we saw that the deputy president was at where there was a gas explosion in Embakasi. That is why we have pictures of the deputy president going with gumboots in Mai Mahiu assessing the situation.
Okay.
Information is power, and power is priceless. So I would like to remind, he said that he has not seen the president on the ground. He delegated this power through an executive order. And it's also ambiguous for my raded colleague here to say that he needs to see the president unclogging the drainage. If he does that, he will also come here and say that the president should not do that. I think we have a problem where Kenyans will always judge using different categories or skills for different things.
Okay.
I think my friend needs to be honest with himself and say that yes, we have a problem, but how can we be part of the solution?
Okay.
Here.
Executive orders, that's not the definition of executive orders. His intention was to define executive orders. I will give you an example of an executive order.
Okay.
An executive order is like when CS for security says that kesho msipatikane mkiandamana. When you will be met there, you will be dealt with. Those are samples of executive orders.
Yes.
But when you are on a PR stand, you are taking people for mattresses. You know, those are PR stands. And you want for photographs to be taken. And again, this simuliona tulikuja tukawasaidia. No, those are not executive orders. If you mean something and something has to be enforced, if today you try to overturn the government, you will know what executive orders mean.
Really?
I think my
So we
I can see you have a laptop here, and the laptop is connected
I'm
to
talking.
internet.
I'm talking.
Look
We are
for
not in a bar.
executive order number 2.
We are not in a bar. Listen to me. I talk. I finish. I was silent when you are giving
Let's
up.
hear it. Let Fendo finish. Yes.
Yeah. So we need to know executive orders. What are the executive orders about this? This is a serious issue. This is not an issue about, you know, just giving out mattresses, coming and laughing with the people here. If that thing is wrong, it is wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. And the government should participate and do thorough civic education, not PR stands.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing, before I conclude,
Yes.
we've seen these members of parliament. How much did Rigathi Gachagua contribute in that sham attendance that he did? They go to churches and contribute 2 million
Millions
to
of
build
money,
churches.
for sure.
But what are they doing to this, you know, university students?
Yes.
University students are intellectuals. They need to come up, you know, with solution to this problem. At the ancient days, Moi could involve university students to come up, you know, with ideas of how we can overcome certain challenges.
Yes.
But what are we doing? The
We are just
president,
watching
we are just watching, and then imagining that buying a foam mattress, that one of 350 shillings is solving this problem. No, we need to calm this thing, deal with this scientifically,
Yes.
and with the executive orders that are meant to be
actual executive orders. Kimani, I want you to make your closing remarks on this conversation, but first, again, you need to tell us from your point of view, of course, who exactly is to take this blame. Then at this point, you've mentioned that as citizens we also need to take part of this blame. We've been warned, we've been given warnings here and there, but I tend to feel, even with the Kenya Met Department, which you mentioned that at the beginning of the year they only said we're going to have short rainfalls, but remember when they said we have massive rainfalls coming up in terms of El Nino last year, it didn't go well with the sitting government, which made them apologize eventually. So I'm led to believe that this year their statements were also politically governed. Yeah, kulikuwa na a
True,
speed
yeah.
governor.
Yeah.
If I say something to a certain point, watakuja niambia unataka kutishia Wakenya namna gani, na tulisha kuambia last year.
we have prayed for
And we've already held lots of prayers. They're still holding prayers, by the way.
Thank you very much. I
yes,
think
so
to begin with, the truth will always remain to be the truth. As a nation, we have failed to invest in scientific ways of in the meteorological department. I'm really informed that we are still using old Stone Age equipments to predict the weather, and that is a failure by successful government, including this one. And having in mind that the current president did a thesis on things to do with the environment, I think we need to invest more so that we can get quite informative and conclusive assumptions or the decisions in regards to weather. Remember, we have previously been warned about El Nino 3 times, and none actualized. Money was set aside to maybe do unclogging of drainage and other stuff, and nothing happens. When they say that we are going to have enhanced rain, it turns out to be the El Nino, and they start saying that we warned you earlier. But then they had said that there will be El Ninos from, I think, October, November.
Yes.
That did not happen. So as a nation, we need to relook at our investments in that department so that we cannot be relying on donated instruments. For me to donate something, maybe a phone, I have to mean that I have another phone that is better for me to donate.
Yeah.
Probably some of these things that we are receiving as aid and appropriations are things that were supposed to measure the weather 17 years ago. So we need to advance that. Secondly, about citizenship. One, and in regards to what Kindiki said, we cannot have the government everywhere. We cannot have the government outside your area where you are flooded, or representative of the government to tell you do not cross this road, do not drive on that tunnel that is flooded. It is your responsibility as a patriotic citizen and as a person who loves their life to take care of yourself. And if we do that, we will be able to avoid a lot of tragedy. And I mean, these things have been there in the previous regime, even in Kibaki's time. We saw people in the same rivers when they are flooded trying to cross. I mean, I remember there was a bridge that is supposed to be constructed by Charity Ngiru because it was swept away. And we were here again discussing about how I think 11 people were carried when they were trying to cross in a bus. It has become a repetitive thing in the nation. Why? Kenyans are professional, ignorant, and arrogant. When you tell them the facts, they come and they snub them. They think that it's just a heresy. And when things happen, we are quick now to blame, looking for someone to blame. And as we say that everybody's baby is no one's baby. We need to take responsibility as individual, as government, and also as critics of the government.
Okay. All right, that is Kimani Wachira's submission to the current situation we're facing in the country. Fendo is not so happy, but I doubt if we continue, even no one will really be happy at the very end, because there's always going to be, a response to the other argument. Just one thing that I didn't get from you. There was a point you wanted Fendo to check out the internet. What was it? What was the
executive? What is executive order?
Okay.
An executive order is
Alright.
only issued by the president, not by CSS or whatever.
Okay.
And they are like, in a year he can issue 4 or 3. The executive order number 2 that I mentioned, maybe he has a laptop here, he can Google. It is the one that reshuffled various ministries. It is the one that gave departments their key responsibility.
Okay.
It is if you look at executive order number 2, it is a document, it's a PDF of around 30 pages. You are going to see the assigned issues. What you're talking about, Kindiki issuing statements and whatever, they are just orders directed to different departments. But an executive order is issued only by the president.
So we need an executive order for this current situation?
I was saying that I was responding to his allegations that I will claim that the president needs to go here and there. He issued an executive order bringing things to do with the disaster management to the and tasking that to the deputy president.
Right.
What we need to do today is declare this flooding issue a national disaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
During the, you know, there is an executive, I'm a scholar and I know the definition of, executive. I have a dictionary here, I have a dictionary on the phone, I have a dictionary everywhere. I know what it means. What we, I'm talking about the executive order, your ground. Tuko kwa ground, floods zinaua watu, people are dying, people are losing orders. And during the demonstrations, the number of lives lost during then were less as compared to the number of people who are lost during these flooding seasons. But during then, you could see the vigor of Kithure Kindiki. I never knew that Kithure Kindiki could be that serious, you know. But he was very serious with that. You know, even the president said, "Hatutaruhusu watu kuharibu biashara za watu."
And they will say that beforehand. They will say that in advance.
Today, and they could even hire goons to go and maintain security. You know, why can they do that? You know, right now.
Today we have also
I'm talking. Please maintain. Let's maintain. You know, the paper one English that we were taught. You know, turn taking while talking. You know. And I also like, I think I've said my point home clearly. I like to dedicate a song to him. He has also sent me to Wikipedia. A Lucky Dube song, you know, Lucky Dube song, which says that, think about the children, you know. That song, there is a line that you will hear in that song that says, think about the children who lost their parents. Why were they taken away in the first place? Think about the leaders who never did us. Why were they given the power in the first place? And then you answer that question and bring with it in the next talk show that we'll ever meet in whatever place that we will be there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I'll just read a bit of where you can find these stories in the Daily Nation, and then you can proceed to the next one. So on the Daily Nation, where you will get this Black Monday report on what is happening across the country, is page 2 and page 3. So page 2 is death, destruction, haunt Mai Mahiu villages after floods. Witnesses yesterday recounted the 3 a.m. horror, replaying scenes of people being dragged to their deaths by cascading mud alongside cars and debris, flood waters which came from a gully upstream. And that is a situation that happened there. On page 2 and page 3 is where you get that. On page 7, there's also Turkana cutoff as rains cause devastation across the county. These days of rain have left a lasting effect in various regions, and we're seeing here the Kitale, Kapenguria, Lodwar, Juba highway, which was cut off at around Lowe's area in West Pokot County. So that, and also more photos and images from across the country. A passenger bus here, which was damaged by flash floods in Mahimahiu. That's an easy coach bus, I believe, coming from the Nyanza region to Nairobi. There's NYS personnel here and blocking drainage in Suba South. An aftermath of a landslide in Murang'a County as well yesterday. So this is happening up country, in the city, whether you're rich, whether you're poor. This is a national disaster affecting us all. It's yet to be declared a national disaster by the president. It's also a question in the minds of very many Kenyans. What will it take for this to be labeled a national disaster? The international community is watching, and the World Bank is also pledging its support to Kenya as we are undergoing this difficult situation. But while we're still in floods, there's a story, just a side story out of it, and it's there on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Confusion over school reopening as Machogu defends the move to postpone school reopening. This was done first. Of course, we have to talk about why it was done at 1 a.m. and then also that it's now been postponed as late as the day of opening school. again, preparedness, which is a very big lack. Yeah, you know, it's lacking in this government. You can see it everywhere, from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Planning, the Ministry of Education. Clearly, it seems we are not having any priority-based activity happening with the Kenya Kwanza government. Who spoke last, so that so that we don't go at each other's throats. Kimani Wachira, tuongee kuhusu Ministry of Education. Nini naendelea huko? As someone who's been, you know, involved in student and education affairs.
I think the first show I came here, I was here talking about education.
Yeah.
And I was castigating the ministry and the incompetent Machogu. And my views have not changed here today. We will have done better. And it's evident that his decision yesterday, the day before yesterday, that at 1 a.m. actually, when people were sleeping, to declare that students and pupils should not resume to school, which was, yes, it's a good decision, but the timing was very wrong. Because as I understand, yesterday at 8 a.m., I was in Nairobi and I could see students. And this talks about the people, as he said, in the various departments in government are very incompetent. And before I even give my remarks, let me talk to the Kenyan parent and tell them that you should also get ready, because Machogu might wake up one night and decides to tell you that tomorrow resume schools. So fellow parents,
in 2 hours,
get ready, get ready.
You said fellow parents there, so
yeah.
Congratulations.
Fellow parents, get ready.
I didn't
tomorrow,
have that information.
Tomorrow you may be told that we resume our kids to school.
Okay.
I hope that is not going to happen.
Okay.
On a serious note,
yeah,
we have a problem in this ministry. Yesterday, apart from this, we have we had people who are doing internship that were employed demonstrating. This talks about how the entire ministry is run.
We're talking about intern teachers.
Intern teachers were demonstrating in Kiambu and other counties.
Okay.
I know people want to say that this decision was awaiting Ruto to make to give the decision so that it can be implemented.
Yes.
But I want to say it is not that. That is not the case. It is the incompetent CS who took time to respond, and this has costed a lot of disasters and also damages.
So it had nothing to do with
the government.
you know, the hearsay that, you know, the president or the president's order, executive order from the president.
I know you want to say it's a one-man show. That is
yes,
not
it's a one-man show, isn't it?
No. It is the incompetent CS.
It's a circus then.
It's a circus. At the end of the day, remember, he needs to know that for today is the day we are going to resume to school. Yesterday, food had already been prepared for these students.
Yes.
For instance, in one of Mairoko Primary School, they had to invite villagers to come and feast on the githeri that was cooked because of one incompetent individual in the Ministry of Education.
Okay. And
I still hold that we either reshuffle him back or send him home and bring competent people like my friend here, so that he can be able to deal with the epitome of all affairs, because education, basic or high education, is the key thing in our lives.
I'm going to say something very, or you understand it? Yes, please finish first.
Regardless of the timing, it was a good decision.
Okay.
Because we have seen, assuming that we had students on the road yesterday with the disaster, we have seen that even when we are coming here in the morning, the roads are still flooded in some sections. It was a good decision, but the timing was what
which says a lot, which actually is the biggest issue of it all, yeah? You know, saying it last minute. And again, this is where I come in now to say,
as they say that better late than never, but this is life and death. And I have to point out that in my very honest perspective, from the very onset, I've not seen President William Ruto being someone who is very caring to the affairs of the students of this republic, especially primary school or lower level. We haven't even touched about comrades or tertiary institutions. Let's speak about primary and secondary schools. Back from when
President William Ruto was Deputy President William Ruto, there were demonstrations happening on that side of Langata Road with primary school students, and we remember what happened, the whole tear gassing incident.
In
Recently, we have seen banditry attacks in the Rift Valley region where schools were closed, students were abducted. I didn't see a statement from President William Ruto. And coming into the flooding, I would expect the president to be the very first person to know that indeed, given massive flooding, roads have been cut off, buses are being swept away, children should be going back to school. Why should we take the blame away from the president? Where does the president come in when it comes to the affairs of the children of the republic? Being the father of the republic, shouldn't he be the first person to know that tomorrow watoto wangu hawafai kurudi shule? Therefore, CS Machogu, do that communication earlier. If it wasn't done earlier, I should expect a statement afterwards that, hey, okay, that wasn't an order, that wasn't a one-man show then. Who is this conducting this other show on the sideline at a very last minute? Fendo, tunafaa ku blame president at what point, and at what point should we, leave it and say the people around him ndio wako na shida?
I think on the matters of education, we can reserve the president kidogo, because Matiang'i already set the pace on what the education should be done. He already set the pace, and I think he set the bar too high, higher than a satellite. That I think Machogu fitting on those shoes is proving to be a bit difficult. What the Kenyans need is the pace of Honorable Matiang'i. Remember the issue of school bus just getting an accident. One school bus, all the buses were painted yellow.
Yes.
Nobody stole an exam during the 2016 examination period. And those students have been assisting in the marking of examination papers, and I can say those students are giving good answers, accurate answers. They are like, competent. So this is a ministry that really needs seriousness that it deserves. Because if you want to destroy a nation, initially they could poison, if you want to destroy a society, initially they could poison a well. But right now, if you want to destroy a nation, adulterate their education, and you can do this by giving incompetent leaders there. Like this is just a position, just giving people to just go and fill a position. Kuna Ministry of Education hapo, kuna beshte, yes.
Yeah.
Patia education, That is a ministry that should be taken with a lot of seriousness that it really deserves. So when these certain issues like late communication, petty small issues like ardent timely communication cannot be communicated to the parent early, it is proving that these people are just incompetent.
Yes.
Another thing, there are a lot of children were on the roads. Some parents were even crying on the news yesterday. We saw on KUTV and other media outlets that there are children, parents who don't even know where the children are. Because what's happening, this rain can rain even for 3 hours, heavy rains. So they go to seek shelter. When they're seeking shelter, time is going, it gets late. They have no place to go. Some even, sleep in tunnels. Some even, do other bad means.
Just to make sure they're surviving that period.
Yeah, so we need to get timely communication from a minister. I think that was setting a bar too low.
Yes.
But as my friend has said, we need to also, you need also to be sent home or reshuffled to to be given lighter duties. Like I saw some governors some time back being given a lighter duty where you are removed from the NOS to being given a lighter duty of being a governor in a county. So you can also be given
That being the lighter duty.
Yeah,
And his
that the
explanation-
Kenyan government understands.
And his explanation on page 5 of the Daily Nation is not quite conclusive and also
true,
quite explanatory to the parents.
Okay.
As a parent, I'm not convinced that this was the right, the timing was the right. Yes, he's talking about this as a data-informed decision, that I did that after data was corrected on Sunday, informed that roads had been blocked. But as a parent, once again, who believes that, initially our forefathers were given land as inheritance. And the greatest inheritance I can give, or we can give as a nation to the next generation, is education.
Yeah.
We are not convinced that Machogu made the clarion call in the right time.
Yeah.
And actually, I will demand on behalf of other parents and as a parent of this nation, an apology for the inconveniences caused by this rate decision,
Yeah.
which we are saying that the decision is good, but the timing was wrong.
Yes.
And we need an apology because we had made logistical issues, even though life is paramount and life is important. This decision ought to have been made on Friday.
Yes.
We know people who have employed nanny, and it was during the holiday time. They gave them, they had told them that on Monday you are going for a break because
Yes,
kids are
because my
resuming
kids are going back to school. Yeah.
Those who had employed temporary nannies, they had discontinued their services and advised them that you can look for a kibarua somewhere else because kids are going to school. We had done shopping. And most of the schools, especially for those in high school, you go with food stuff.
Yeah.
Now that means that when we are going back to, we are going to redo shopping because
we're going to spend definitely. We definitely spend it. One thing that I have to point out is the fact that this statement just reeked of privilege for me from the Ministry of Education. Giving out a statement at 1 a.m. at a time where so many Kenyans are devastated by floods means you are not aware of the dire situation. I can't imagine where the CS for Education was on Sunday evening that was so important that he didn't realize that the data really already shows kesho shule zifunguliwe, and then it hits him at around 1 a.m. And I have to give caution to Kenyans and to just all of us in general that if there's anything we have to learn from this current disaster which we are facing in terms of El Nino and massive flooding is that, again, more with time privilege, there are times where your privilege will not save you. If you have seen people moving out of Runda, moving out of Karen because of the massive flooding, which is affecting them in the same way as someone else in Mathare, someone else in Suba, someone else in Taita Taveta, you need to know that whichever it is you think you have been cushioned against by either bad governance or just a lack of cooperation in general as citizens will eventually get to you, whether it's financial, whether it's education-wise, whether it's health. Itafika tu mahali, we will all be equalized. And I think it should be a warning shot also to politicians. Itafika mahali where we are all the same common man facing the same challenges. And at that point, you will need my help. And it's important that when you have that level of privilege as a leader, as someone who can help out someone else, try and do so before it's too late. I think that's what we can close on as regards to this disaster. We're sending out our condolences to the families who've lost their loved ones, the ones who are looking for their missing relatives, and also as a word of caution to ensure you're thinking of your own safety, where you're living, where you're moving, and also seeking shelter as early as possible in this period of rainfall, which is going to prolong for quite some time. Now, away from Black Monday, we are looking for more money. On page 12 of the Daily Nation, you can see President William Ruto yesterday giving a speech at the summit organized by World Bank for their International Development Association, which is bringing together 19 heads of states plus Raila Amolo Odinga. That's what I was, that's how I was terming it, because it's the only other non-head of state I could see there. So 19 heads of state plus Raila Amolo Odinga yesterday discussing, of course, a new allocation. And they have the numbers here. If you open page 12 of the Daily Nation, 16 trillion, the amount heads of state are seeking, which is an increase from 12 trillion raised in the last funding round. 75 developing nations around the world which benefit from this low interest rate loans from IDA, which operates on a 3-year cycle. Maybe just to give you a bit of context, President William Ruto yesterday agreed to implement the World Bank's tough financing conditions in return for additional cheap loans from the global financier. Dr. Ruto said or asked for significant capital injection which offers cheap loans and grants to poor countries, notably in African countries, including Kenya. Kenya ascended to become the 4th largest borrower from this international development agency, and behind Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Tanzania. Last year, World Bank noted that Kenya was accessing about 266 billion in funding each year from IDA and International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So more money and tougher conditions as well. What are some of these tough conditions, Kimani and Fendo, that you guys can expect from more money from World Bank? Of course, this just one comical statement before you guys respond there that I got from a friend of mine called Kiruku. Kiruku is supposed to be a practicing doctor, but ako on strike, bado hajapostiwa kama intern, and clearly given his tweets anahitaji kupostiwa as soon as possible. So this is what he said. Well, after the World Bank president said that Kenya is suffering from devastating floods and World Bank will be there with you throughout this period. Kiruku replied to that saying, the president of Kenya has finally addressed the disaster. Referring to the World Bank president, AJ Banga, as the president of Kenya, who has finally now, given a statement. And it's true because, it comes with more terms and conditions. Gentlemen, your reactions to this?
Thank you very much, Okenya.
Yes.
First of all, to the medical doctor who just texted you.
Yeah.
I want to tell him bana, rudini kwenye mahospitali muweze kutibu watu. Unajua being given 70,000 manze as a fee for intern bana, that's a lot of money. There are some of us who the mshahara is not quite good, lakini we are struggling.
Amkai 36 hours straight bila kulala ukihudumia emergencies, hivyo ndo wanasema.
Yeah, though also there is also another issue. I'm also not saying that the doctors are also on the right side, because they raised, it was 15 issues or 18 issues? 18 issues, under the CBA, and the government of Kenya at least tried and sorted out the 17 issues, and it remained one issue,
which is
the interns.
The interns posting and amount.
The amount, actually.
The amount, just the amount.
So on that side, we highly appreciate the government, but we also telling the doctors that we also be at least considerate also to the Kenyans, because even these medical doctors who are striking because they are not given money. If you go to a hospital today, you don't find a doctor. They go somewhere and leave this works to the interns. So you also need to make sure that as much as also demonstrating, I'm also telling him as a doctor that this doctor should also be in the hospitals, but not leaving interns there. Because if you want a doctor, they're earning salaries from the government hospitals, but they're not there. They've left interns there. They're also earning money from their private hospitals, appointments, and all sorts of things.
So how do we fix the amount that interns are being allocated to be fair, such that then we have more doctors still in hospital and we still have interns?
Yeah, so on that, I will be honest and say that I'm not an expert in the matter of
the reimbursement
planning, but I can deal with it from the communication point of view.
Yeah,
is that the government also needs to be very considerate about the Kenyans, and also know that these people, if they are doing this work under this, they must just give them timely payments, because it's very bad somebody is going extra hours to save lives of Kenyans, and the government still delay their payments and paying politicians at the very
exorbitant rates
and on timely payments. But
something else I think I failed to mention when we are talking about the flooding situation across the country is waterborne diseases. I highlighted them earlier in my introduction, which will come out of this, and we are probably going to experience an epidemic of these waterborne diseases like cholera and the rest. And given medics are on strike, amuni kama mambo inaenda kuharibika sana. Because even the death rise is rising, because they are going to the hospitals and they're finding no
medical attention, and most Kenyans rely on public hospitals. Very few Kenyans can go to. In fact, I have a friend who lost their dad because he went sick. When he was taken to the hospital, they were told doctors are not there. You go back, and as in, it's a very painful state to talk about doctors on strike and people are losing lives. And another thing is also, we should also take self precautions by ensuring that we drink boiled water, because at this time cholera outbreak might appear, and might be a statistic thing that everybody thinks that itaanzia kwa watu wengine na huko sasa.
Alafu niambiwe kwa news inaweza anza wewe ndio the first. Wewe tunaanza na wewe.
It might begin with you as a statistic,
patient zero.
So it's also time, because now the government is proving to give late communications on matters of crises. So we also need to also come up with our own initiatives to make sure that we are informed and not ignorant of certain issues. Take boiled water, make sure that you are going out, not just walking kwa maji, because I think everybody here apart from Kenya was a car, mguu lazima imeingia kwa maji. Jana bana, I had just to dip my legs in in the water, and I knew bana, mwalimu was telling me that so many kwa bidii mnunue magari right now.
Now you get it.
But even Kenya, when he parks his car, he has to walk to his home across that flooded ditch. And maybe
so from there we can pick some bilharzia, choleras, and those.
So take precautions. Alafu pia Godwin amesema Daktari Kiruku, uambia wenzako mrudi hospitali, and then we can get to be considerate. Your discussion about money is I don't think it's something we can even handle on this panel conclusively. But yes, please, both sides of the divide, doctors and also the government, you need to be considerate that mtu mwenye katikati anaumia ni mwananchi, mwenye bado NHIF na SHIF. Okay, anyway, health tutaongelea siku ingine. Kimani Wachira.
Before I come back to what we were talking about the convention of our African president, allow me to give an advice to all Kenyans who are swimming to work. Carry your water from home that is boiled, because the cost of treating some of these illnesses surpasses the cost of free water that is, you don't know its source. Secondly, if possible, carry your food as you go to work, because you don't know in the Kibandaski you go where they have gotten their water. And we have seen that during this storm, when the storm water mixes with sewage, you cannot, it seems to be clean. To avoid complications and sicknesses, kindly carry your water and food to work. Secondly, let me make a clarion call to our pastors and religious leaders. You have been preaching a lot of water and telling us, or preaching wine and telling us to take water. One, we need to see you responding to these emergencies through our the monies we give to churches. We need to see you hosts these people who have been displaced by the floodings. We need to see you not only telling us to pray, but taking action. We also need to see you at the ground, praying from there, not telling us to pray, because from there you are not there. And lastly, back to what is happening in KCC.
Yes.
I'm quite happy that we have been able to host, is it 19 or 17 presidents? 19 presidents.
Yes.
In our nation during this tough time. I hope they are not going to say that Nairobi is a sinking or a city within an ocean. But it's good. It comes with an economical value. And what we are talking about is about money, and about how we are going to continue getting funds from World Bank through, and that is 16 trillion. That is equivalent to the entire 4 times the budget, or 4 times the budget of Kenya for Africa. And I hope that because yesterday we had a gathering of the best and the worst of Africa in one sitting. I hope that if for the next 3 years we are allocated 16 trillion, that these head of states and governments are going to appropriate this money better than they have done. That this money is going to go to the intended purposes. And I also want to make a clarion call to the World Bank. Be the implementing partner. Be there to supervise how these resources are allocated. We may be doing badly in Kenya, but other nations are worse. We see that, and a pointing case is Southern Sudan. The president was there. But if you look at how they are, the amount of loans they get, and vis-a-vis what is done, is zero.
My producer Ran Gure is not a very big fan of that kind of comparison, where we are saying we are better than our neighbors. Asema shida zetu bado ni shida.
Yes, but I'm saying that is why I say that I hope that the 19 heads of states
can come
are
together,
going to individually take responsibility of the funds that are going to be given. And I think that because I saw Raila there, once he has said to the chairperson of this African AUC, the commission, he's going through the Pan-African Parliament to see if we can be able to negotiate with World Bank and other lenders to ensure that they are part of the implementing plan. That money is not only given to the government so that the government can appropriate it. If money is meant for disaster, they are there to help implement it, because that is what is aiding Africa. Lastly, I listened to Museveni speak, saying the way he does not take nonsense from upcoming addressing various issues. And I wish that we would stop talking and start taking action. Because if you will listen to him, you think that Uganda
is the most prosperous nation.
Is the epitome of development
In Africa.
In Africa.
Yeah, okay. Fendo,
Yes.
your remarks on World Bank, more loans, and of course definitely some conditions which we will get to realize the effects a bit later.
So me, first of all, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm a Pan-Africanist. Whenever I see such meetings, sometimes I don't really follow to know what's happening, the loans they're giving us, because I believe that we should now start, Kenya's and Africa at large as sufficient scholars to now start putting measures to avoid taking these loans from World Banks. These are our colonizers, you know, they're now, the modern day colonization is not about guns, it's not about being beaten, it's about, you know, being given this loan and crippling your economy, and they've been crying about it. Presidents, we saw the president saying that, you know, we need to, you know, de-dollarization and all those things, but today is at the podium with a very good suit, trying to also seek and be given loans. Now they are really
seems, I always note that, again, for you as a Pan-Africanist, maybe you've also noted it, that when he's in meetings with other African heads of state, he has this kaunda and it's kind of African attire, but when he's speaking to the colonizers, suti muhimu pale alafu.
Suti muhimu. We should now start putting up measures to even give these other countries, you know, loans, and if this thing is possible, if they tend to respect scholars and you know, intellectuals like PLO Lumumba, he cannot get a ministerial position in Kenya because it's not politically correct. But we need such brains there. We need brains like Kimani here. We need brains like Fendoman to be there and start, you know, giving, you know, how we can now reduce on taking the loans and start self-sustaining ourselves in whichever way. Because if they are giving us loans, they're also doing something so that, you know, they did something that, you know, actually we just need to unhook ourselves from these loans. And loans are really harassing some of the people who have been even employed even in this Daily Nation. I've seen Tuju handed fresh blow tussled with bank over loans. Loans are serious issues that me, I actually
you can see it even with individuals.
Yeah, even with the Supreme Court. I think this case was, you know, in the 3rd paragraph. But a 5-bench judge headed by Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu dismisses to just, you know, loans are, you know, if you want to really suffer, we're not saying that loans are bad, but really you have to be very intelligent. So we really need to unhook ourselves from this. We have land that our ancestors gave us. We can use that to do some small farming, agriculture, and, you know, and we'll be at a place. So
yes, na wakiacha kutupatia fake fertilizer. Tutakuwa sawa sana na hiyo agriculture.
Mambo ya kuwekea watu kokoto kwa gunia that this is fertilizer. But the Kenya is a crime scene country. We need to really fumigate this country. We are suffering left, right, and center.
We are facing a lot of issues.
In fact, there is somebody who said, if these grenades that are falling, if I'm sorry to say this, if it could fall to parliament, half of the problems Kenya is facing will be solved.
And
if that happened.
And the other half will be left for Kenyans because we are part of the problem, and because a Kenyan business person.
Kimani uko, yani wewe unataka tu tukue part of the problem.
We are part of the problem. Who's a pride? Kenyans are pride fake fertilizer to fellow Kenyans. We are,
we should not be enabling them.
Yes, we are enablers of crime. Kenya is, he correctly mentioned that the borders of Kenya are also the borders of a crime scene nation. As we came here, and I always like using that example, we have passed 3 police roadblocks, and I took the after the 50s were dished out, after arriving at my destination in Ruiru, I went to confirm if that car has insurance. There's nothing displayed in the windscreen.
Although that's like chicken and egg situation. Does it? I was an bribes because now they have to. Or is it that to normalize? We have normalized.
We have normalized.
How much does? Let's begin. How much does the government of Kenya pay a traffic police? Do you know those people pay even 18,000 shillings? You paid 18,000 shillings and you have unanyeshewa unafanya nini? These people will
an entire conversation. Go to Nairobi. Immediately you arrive at Konja. Kanjo enters, takes his amount and leave. We are taxing every public transport that gets to Nairobi. We are meaning that we are all enabler and part of the problem. And we cannot also be part of the solution if we don't decisively say that enough is enough.
Okay.
Yes.
So, hapo nimeagree. Enough is enough. Now, I hope this message is home for all those people. Listen, guys, it's past time, so we have to make our very last remarks. If there's a story you feel that I skipped out on your end, please bring it up. This is the point. Fendo pia wewe kama kuna story naza kwa nimeacha, you can pick it out as I read the headline on the Business Daily, and then we get that commentary alafu tufunge show. Kenya cancels France-backed Mau Summit toll highway contract. So there was a contract here between Kenya and French contractors, who this was supposed to happen between Nairobi, Nakuru, Mau. That same region ambayo saizi iko na shida, that was supposed to happen this, but it's been cancelled because of high toll fees proposed by these French contractors, amongst many other issues. This was supposed to cost 478 billion. A fresh tender for this road is going to be issued. They're hoping it's going to be a solution, especially for your route here, escarpment na Mai Mahiu, Nairobi, Nakuru, Mau Summit. That will be very helpful, and hopefully this comes at for once nimeona wakicancel tender juu ya, and I'm hoping that's and I'm hoping that's the actual truth. You know, sometimes you give commendation and then baadaye you realize, oh, ni mtu hakupewa tender. So hopefully this is a good sign that for once we've cancelled a tender because of incompetent contractors or who want to overcharge Kenyans, and this will reflect, of course, across many other spheres. One story that you can read for yourself on the Business Daily is KQ Flight, who've been arrested or who've been detained in DRC, and now the national carrier Kenya Airways has suspended flights to DRC, citing this continued detention of our personnel who are over there, and they have cancelled these flights up until this issue is resolved. You can read for yourself on page 2. Gentlemen, one story each, alafu tufunge.
I'll start with page 22 of the Daily Nation.
Okay.
Today in history. April 30th, 1993. Monday strikes rooms after KOTU and the government deadlock at talks attended by KOTU Secretary General Joseph Mulanga and Labour Minister Philip Masinde. A day like this, 1993, there were rooming strikes because the foreign the workers were striking because of pay. We still have the same challenges today, where the nurses, doctors, and other medical professions are on strike. And on that note, let me wish fellow Kenyans and workers a happy Labour Day tomorrow. Let us strive to ensuring that we are competent laborers and also competent employees and employers. As I live here, I know I'm going back to my side hustle in Koera Road, where we do 3D printing and Aruko boards and signage. And I hope that as tomorrow other goes to Labour Day, also they are also going to come and we are going to support each other in terms of business. And allow me also, because I may not get another opportunity to send greetings to people who have been watching us. We have Shane Njeri, who is watching us from Kahawa West and saying that it is quite cloudy in that area. Irene Azedi Mayasi watching us from Western Kenya. We have Peter Njoroge and Kamau Kangede, who is watching us from Nairobi. And they all have one message to Kenyans. Take care, take care, take care.
All right.
Lastly, allow me to speak to the youth of this nation. As we endeavor to creating and getting employed after finishing universities and colleges, let us also endeavor to creating a larger social network, because our names have been mentioned in places where we have created a larger social network where we would have never gone if we had only created friendship. As we interact with these readers, as we interact with our peers and people who are above us, let us intend to making a greater social network, and also let us not focus on them, on us knowing them, but them knowing us.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kimani Wachira, as well. Fendo Godwin, your last story, if any, and then your last remarks at the same time.
So first of all, let me begin with the last bit, the last remarks as far as the newspapers are concerned. At least the first thing, when I get a newspaper, I always go to the business biashara hook behind just look at the number of properties being auctioned, at least being a biashara Tuesday. So I can see the number of pages with people's businesses and properties being auctioned is at least trying to reduce. And my only worry is when I take a newspaper and you find that even there are 8 pages of auctioneers being at the people's necks. So I think maybe let me just believe that it's an improvement that people's property are not being used and business is now, you know, being viable.
Okay.
Considering that the dollar is also improving.
Yes.
And another next story that I'd like to recommend the Kenyans to read is to find it from the Daily Nations, and it's talking about a healthy nation.
Yes.
There is a very good article here that talks about ignorance, and I am always a fight
Against
of
ignorance. Yes, I noticed.
Yeah. And
We
here,
have a war against ignorance.
yeah, and the children pay heavy prices as parents ignore life-saving vaccines. You know, we are in a TikTok generation where people don't care. You find that parents even forget to take their children for vaccines. People cannot even remember the BCG vaccines, the polio vaccines were being given in you remember those things? They could come to primary schools and give you those things. So right now people are feeling like, you know, they're even forgetting
Make my own decisions.
Yeah. So
Forgetting
we
the
need
children.
we need people to read, and I've really read about it, and it is really informative. I think people should just get this newspaper and get the story about
Healthy nations. Vaccines. Sawa. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to as your last
I would like
sign
to
off?
give out a shout out to my father, Fendo Dibis. He's a great fan of KUTV and this show to be specific.
Nice.
I'd also like to send my shout out to my lecturer, my former lecturer at Multimedia University, Mr. Kidaha Alfred, who I know is right now seated at the visitors lounge waiting to dissect the AU chairmanship contest in relation to the media, how the media is going to do that. And I really like to also request my busy friend to be around to also help us dissect the issues to deal with AU chairmanship contest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for creating time for us here. And I'd just like to close this section by highlighting the editorial cartoon at page 18, on page 18 of the Standard, where it's a photo of Caesars, and then I think that's CS Linturi.
Yes.
Yeah.
The fertilizer
and then a
scandal.
fertilizer briefcase. Alafu anauliza resign, who, how, why, wapi, mlisikia wapi? There's no resignation that's going to happen unless the
Allow me to
Caesars
comment,
fall on
sir.
him. Yeah. What's your?
This cartoon is quite speaking about the Kenyan situation, the entitlement in public service, that I'm there to represent you, but you can do nothing about it.
Yeah.
When the National Assembly, whose constitutional role is to legislate, tries to oversight the people who have been selected to represent us in various ministries are entitled, such that the likes of Wamushomba from Githunguri signs a petition to impeach the incompetent agriculture CS who is economically sabotaging our nation. His response with, he resigned.
Mimi.
Mnajua mimi ni nani? I talked to the president daily. That entitlement is what is ailing our nation.
Big man syndrome.
Yes,
Called
big man syndrome, yeah.
It should be dealt with properly and
Yeah. Think about it. We'll continue with this conversation another time. Thank you, Kimani Wachira, for bringing that up. I'll close it with a quote at the back of the Business Daily. It's coming from American poet and critic Ezra Pound. Anasema, any general statement is like a check drawn on a bank. Its value depends on what is there to meet it. Any general statement is like a check drawn on a bank. Its value depends on what is there to meet it. Think about it, interpret it as you want, react, and also apply it where necessary. Thank you very much for creating time for us here on KUTV Rise Today. This has been Biashara Tuesday with me, Richard Okenye. On Monday mornings, you get Art and Culture Monday with Karen Blessing, who gives you a dose of art to begin your week. And then on Tuesday, I bring business to give you a tone of success for the rest of your week on Biashara Tuesday. We highlight small, medium, enterprise, large corporations, and anything that affects the economy and how you're earning or losing money. If those are conversations you're interested in, ensure you're tuning into this show every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Interact with us, send in your questions in advance during the show, react, predict, and we'd love to see, of course, where you are tuning in from. Until next week, I'd like to leave you to have yourself a blessed and successful week. May your profits be high, but your jokes higher, so that